Hey, James Mitchell here. I'm back again and I'm going to do another Lenormand reading based on a soap opera, and this time I'm going to be checking into Port Charles, which is General Hospital, and I'm looking at the storyline that involves Elizabeth Weber and Jake Doe, who really is Jason Morgan and no one knows it. And I'm going to be looking into where is this storyline going. Right now as it stands, Jake is Jason, but he doesn't know he's Jason because he has amnesia. And he also has had facial reconstruction, so no one knows that he's really Jason because he doesn't look like Jason used to look. So right now he's embroiled in starting a relationship with Elizabeth and doesn't know that he's already married and has a son with Samantha, who's moved on with Patrick. But I'm getting off course with all that. So we're going to be doing a reading, and we're going to be looking at what do we need to know about where this situation with Elizabeth and Jason's going. And so in the next segment, I'm going to show you the cards that are going to represent Elizabeth and Jake/Jason, and then we're going to move into the reading from there. So stay tuned. In this segment, I just want to set things up for the reading. We're going to be doing a reading for Elizabeth Weber and Jake Doe, who is Jason Morgan, on General Hospital, and so we need cards that are going to represent each of them. So for this reading, we're going to be using the Gilded Reverie Lenormand by Ciro Marchetti, and from that deck, we're going to have the woman card be Elizabeth, because the woman card always represents a woman connected to the reading, and the man card we're going to let be Jake/Jason, because this always represents a man in the reading. And since they are the subject as a couple of what we're looking at, we're going to be looking for both of these cards to show up in the reading together. Now, it'll be interesting to see at what point they show up and the cards that are connected to them, whether they're above them, below them, and next to them, because those are all going to be part of the story. But we're going to be interested in seeing when they show up. And so we're going to be moving now to the reading itself. Okay, so we have all the cards laid out in the tableau that we're going to be doing the reading for Elizabeth Weber and Jake Doe, who really is Jason Morgan, on General Hospital, and we're going to be looking at what do we need to know about their relationship. So as I did in a previous video on Will Horton and Sonny Kiriakis' marriages on Days of Our Lives, we're going to start with the first card, because the first card is going to be the jumping off part, and it's going to start us off in the storyline. So this card here is the coffin. So whenever the coffin comes up, it usually can represent something coming to an end. It can also represent limitation, restriction, and confinement. The first thing that comes to my mind, being in the first position, it can represent that nothing's going to come of this, because this card can represent no, nothing, or something that's in a void, something that's been put to rest. You could say that it's over before it begins. So I'm not too sure, based on this card, where this is going to go. Okay, but we'll know because we're going to be looking for the card in the 8th position, because this is card number 8, and so that's going to be the next card in the storyline. So position 8 is over here. Okay, now this is the clouds. So whenever the clouds comes up, it represents something that's confusing, something that needs to be cleared up. It represents something uncertain. So here we have two cards. We have a card that represents limitation, restriction, nothing coming of it, it's over before it begins, and then the next thing is confusion, uncertainty. The clouds for me is a reference to Jake, who is Jason, because these two cards says it's limited, the relationship is limited because Jake doesn't know who he is. Right now he's suffering from amnesia, from having 2 brain surgeries, what make that 3 brain surgeries at this point. So this just represents his state of mind, that he doesn't know who he is, and this is going to play a big part in this relationship. Okay, so that's card number 6. So we're going to go 2 over, because this is 7, to the 6th one. That's the next card in the storyline. Okay, so now this is the moon. So the moon can represent something work-related, something having to do with career, but it's also a card about emotions and a need for something to be recognized. So here, coming after the clouds, there's a lack of recognition because of confusion. And so this, again, goes back to his state of not knowing who he is due to his amnesia. So I'm seeing that with the moon card. Now, being a card of work and career, another thing about Jake or Jason is that he worked for the mob. So right now in the story, Jake has been propositioned by the new police commissioner to go undercover and work for not the mob family Jason used to work for, but the rival mob family. So, you know, that may be something that plays out in the storyline, but that's his working life. But in terms of the relationship, these three cards are saying it's really limited because he doesn't know who he is. Okay, so then we want to go for the 32nd card in the reading. So this is 8, 16, 24, 32. And this card here is the ring. Okay, so now this is a card that can represent commitment, partnerships, unions, and bonds. So in terms of Elizabeth and Jake's relationship, there's a strong bond here. But in the same line as the clouds, there's confusion too, because Jake doesn't know that he's really Jason and that he's already married to Sam. And so Sam has moved on with another guy, but that's going to be another thing that plays into this relationship. There's a lack of recognition for the fact that he's already married because Sam, his wife, thinks he's dead, which it goes back to the coffin. And I said too, I didn't know where this was going to go from there, but this is acknowledging his other wife and his other wife believing, which is recognition, that he's dead. So there's that. But this also can be that Elizabeth and Jake were also involved in the past, and that he doesn't remember it because he's got amnesia, and she doesn't realize it because he's got a different face because he had to have facial reconstruction. Again, lack of recognition. So that's the ring. So this card is number 25. So we're going to go to the card in the 25th position because that's going to be the next card in the storyline. So this is 24. This is 25. This is the dog. Okay. So whenever the dog comes up and we're talking about a relationship, this could be a relationship that's really more of a friendship. And, you know, since Jake or Jason is married to Sam and he doesn't remember that, at that time, he and Elizabeth were friends. So this card is also about loyalty, about trust, about help and support. So Elizabeth has been very supportive and helpful to Jake when he first came out of surgery and he didn't know who he was, and you know, she took him in, so she's been very helpful. So I'm seeing this as Elizabeth, and it's in the House of the Ring. So there's a strong bond because of their friendship. They'll always be friends no matter what the state of their relationship, whether it's romantic or not, but they will always be connected. And in addition to that too, they shared a child who unfortunately was hit and killed by a car. So there's that. So now we want to go to the card in the 18th position because the dog is number 18. So this is 16, 17, 18. And here is the whip. So now whenever the whip comes up, it represents conflict and strife. Something that repeats. So for me, it represents a state of, in their relationship, there's going to be constant or repetitive conflicts and strife. And you know, it's a soap opera, so it's designed to keep them apart. So, but they're going to be undergoing lots of conflict or strife. Okay, so there's that. And now that was card 11, so you want to go to the next card in the storyline in position number 11. So the clouds was 8, 9, 10, 11. And this is the birds. Okay, so whenever the birds comes up, for me, and we're talking about emotions or something having to do with a relationship, which is an emotional topic, this card can represent frustration and worries in the state of the relationship. So I'm seeing that with the birds. The birds can sometimes, it usually has two birds on it. This one has more, but it usually can represent a partnership. So it could be, you know, in their relationship, there's going to be a lot of worry, a lot of stress, and some frustration. And it could be frustration due to all the conflict, because the whip represents conflict. So frustration born out of the repetitive conflicts that they have. Okay, so that's card number 12. So we want to go one card over. Okay, and so whenever the cross comes up, this is the cross. And whenever the cross appears in a reading, it represents having a cross to bear, something that is a burden, something that is difficult, something that is a crisis. So it could be saying, soaps being what they are, Jake or Jason and Elizabeth will be in constant crisis. So that's the cross. It's also a situation in which a lot of faith is required. So, and I don't know which way to put this right now. So it could be Jake needs to have faith in Elizabeth. Elizabeth needs to have faith in Jake. You know, they need to have faith in each other and their relationship, but it's going to undergo a lot of hardship based on the cross. Okay, so the cross is card number 36. So you want to go to the 36th card, and this is the stars. Okay, so now the stars represents hopes, wishes, goals, ideals. So the fact that it's in the position of the cross represents the burden is on being hopeful and optimistic. You know, so, but this card can represent on some level, and it could be as a viewer, you know, those of us who want them together, you know, we keep hoping and wishing for that to happen, but they're going to have a lot of burden. So that's the stars. So the stars is card number 16. And so this is the 16th card. And here we have the scythes, so, or the sickle. So whenever this card shows up, it represents a break. So I'm seeing this as it could be one of those things where something comes up and they have a break. They're torn apart for some reason. It's going to be painful because the sickle can represent pain, hurt, and being wounded. So now I'm also going to throw in that this card can represent danger. So I already alluded to it here with the moon card being a card about work. Jake's work is going to be really dangerous. So there could be a dangerous situation that either involves him or, you know, indirectly involves Elizabeth because of his work. And people know that there's going to be a connection between Elizabeth and Jake. So somebody could use that to his or her advantage and put either Jake or Elizabeth in a dangerous situation. But I'm seeing this as a break or something being severed. So it could also be something or someone working to tear them apart. So that's the sickle. And that's the 10th card. So we're going to look to the 10th card as the next card in the storyline. So 9, 10. Okay, and this is the mice. Whenever the mice comes up, it represents stress and worry, and it also represents something being lessened or something being diminished little bit by little bit. It can represent something being taken. So it could be, I'm going with a play on words here, that the dangerous situation could be that Elizabeth is taken hostage, you know, and Jake has to save her. I don't know. I'm just, you know, I'm looking at this as something being taken. It could actually mean a person being taken because it's in the house of the sickle, and I said the sickle was a dangerous situation. So, you know, we'll have to stay tuned and see. So that's the mice. So this is card number 23. So we're going to go to the 23rd position. It's the next card in the storyline. And this is the bear. So whenever the bear comes up, it can represent power, strength, protection, and an authority figure. So if I equate this to Jake or Jason's work, it could represent a powerful boss, because this card is the boss. So somebody in a position of authority. So it could be that, you know, somebody's taken hostage by an authority figure, a boss. Okay, now in terms of the relationship from an emotional standpoint, this card is just something that is saying they need to have some strength to overcome whatever challenges come their way. Yeah, so a need to be strong and to have faith. It could also be, this is the thought that was coming to me before, something that's overbearing or overwhelming. So that's another aspect of that. So that's the bear. So now we want to look to the card in the 15th position, which is one above it. And this is the mountain. Okay, so now the mountain is a card that represents a huge challenge, a huge obstacle, something to overcome, and it's going to take a while. So soap operas being what they are, this card would suggest that it's going to be a while before Elizabeth and Jake are together, if it gets to that point. It says here that there's a lot to be overcome. This card can also be about setbacks and delays. So another thing, you know, storylines and soap operas are designed to keep things going over an extended period of time. So it could be saying, you know, that it should, if they do get together, it's going to be a long time coming because there's a lot to overcome. Okay, so now we want to go to card number 21. So if this is 24, 23, 22, 21, and here we have the anchor. Exactly what I was talking about with the mountain. Whenever the anchor comes up, it represents something that takes a long time. It's a card that represents work. So again, throwing the work aspect of Jake or Jason's life into the story here. It represents a need for security and stability, but it usually can represent something that's going to take a long time to get anchored in. So like I said, in order for them to get solid and become anchored together as a couple, there's a lot of challenges and obstacles, which is the mountain, that they're going to have to overcome. So that's the anchor. And so now that's card number 35. So here's 36. This is 35. Okay. And here we have the fox. Whenever the fox comes up, it represents something is wrong. There's going to be a mistake. This is about something being sly, cunning, being crafty. It can also represent a strategy. So if the anchor is work, this is a clear sign of Jake or Jason's job working undercover, because the fox is all about doing something sly. He can't get caught, because if he's caught, then he's in danger. Elizabeth is in danger, you know, but he's working undercover for the police, and so that can't be revealed. So I'm going with that as what the fox means, you know, and it's a situation that he can't get out of because the police commissioner is the one who's putting him in that situation. But this is work, and this is also work, so he's got a job to do. So that's playing into the storyline somehow. Okay, so now the fox is card number 14. So we want to go to the card in the 14th position. So we have 16, 15, 14. Okay, this is the ship. So whenever the ship comes up, it represents a journey. It represents exploring something. It represents a venture. So I'm going to say that this is still connected to the work that he is doing for the police undercover. So I'm seeing that with the ship. Okay, now the ship is the third card. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now here we have a little bit of hope besides the star card. This is the clover, and so whenever the clover comes up, it represents an opportunity, good luck, fortune. Here's the thing about the clover, though. It represents a small window of good luck. So we may be teased as viewers where they're going to have like these brief moments when it seems like they may be happy and then something else happens. So, but this is good luck, but it runs very, very short. Now, in terms of the working situation, this also can represent something that's a risk or a gamble. And that goes back to, you know, the idea of him working undercover. You know, there is a risk to that. There is a gamble to that, that his cover is going to be blown. So I'm seeing that. Now, the clover is the second card. So we're going to go one over to the card in the next position. And here's where our story is going to end, because the rider is card number 1, and we started with card number 1. So here's the last card in our storyline. The rider represents an arrival, so it could represent something coming, and she usually represents news or messages being delivered. She's holding an envelope, so that has some message in it. So I'm seeing this as the arrival. It could be the arrival of another person who's going to play a part in bringing some good luck, because this is in the position of the clover, to Elizabeth and Jason or Jake. So, but that's where the story ends. So now here's the interesting part, is that we don't have the card for Jason, which is the man, and we don't have the card for the woman, which is Elizabeth, in the reading at all. Neither one of their cards showed up. So that's also significant. So I'm seeing that since there's an absence of it, it could be a sign that they're really not going to wind up together. They're going to have a lot of calamity, but in the end, they probably won't be together. I'm seeing the writer as the news, possibly, that Jason discovers who he really is, and that changes everything. But just let's look to see where the man and the woman were in the reading. So, not there, not there, not there, there. Okay, so the man here was next to the cross. So there's a great difficulty, burden for Jason or Jake, because he's next to the cross. He's in between the cross and the ship. So it's like he's looking here, but it says burdened by the past, because this is next to him, this is in the past. But he gets to move on from that, which is the ship, because the ship represents moving on. So there's that. Okay, so now we're looking for Elizabeth. Not there. Not there. There. Not there. Not there. Ooh. Getting towards the end, so. Ah, okay, here she is. Okay, so now she's next to information, something documented. So Elizabeth may see some documentation that may allow her to know that Jake is really Jason. So let's see what's on the other side of her. I'm just curious. Yeah. Okay, and then here on the other side of her is the heart. So the heart is about attraction, romance, love. It's very interesting that in this line, both the heart and the ring are next to Elizabeth. And so this is really going to be something for her. She's really falling in love with Jason, because both the heart and the ring are next to her. So, and also she's in the same line as the key. So whenever the key shows up, it represents something being important, vital, but it's also something certain. It's like a yes with an exclamation mark, like this is the answer. So yeah, so it's very interesting. But again, having said that, all of that I just said, their cards didn't show up. So it stands to reason that, you know, there's going to be a lot happening, but in the end, they probably won't be together. So that's the reading. And so we'll just have to stay tuned and see how things turn out.